GM, GA, GE. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? We are back for another episode of Cup of Joe with Web3 Joe. That's Web3 Job Ops and Events, your hub, headquarters, home base for all things Web3 talent and recruitment. They power these spaces. We're on every Wednesday, every Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, sitting down with leaders in the space to talk about how you can land your dream job over coffee. Now, the coffee is optional, but either way, we appreciate you stopping by, whether you're listening live, listening to the recording here on X, or listening on Spotify or YouTube. We appreciate each and every like, listen, comment, share. Y'all know the drill. So today we got a very special episode with a very special guest. He's a friend of mine from the V Friends community, which is really one of the first communities I latched onto here in Web3. He's a contributor, community contributor, as well as a contractor on the content side for none other than V Friends. Burge, how are you doing, brother? Thanks for stopping by. Happy Friday.
Yo, happy Friday. Hope everyone's well. The market has taken a turn for the worse, so appreciate where people might be at right now, but excited to be on the pod and to discuss working in Web3.
Yeah, man, really appreciate you taking time out of your day to stop by. I know you got a lot on your plate. I see you and Floss just all over the timeline, crushing it, absolutely crushing it at all of these card fests, all of these IRL events, making sure that the timeline knows what's going on with V Friends. So it means the world for you to stop by and share some insight with us.
Yeah. And to be honest, like it's been a kind of a mixture. So I started out doing content for I think it was around 5 or 6 months. Um, so I was basically in charge of a new account on Instagram and on TikTok, producing kind of original content around the live streams. So if people don't know, VFriends is currently like really ramping and has been ramping for a while up on how many live streams they do on the live social shopping website whatnot. So Gary sees this as like a big growth sector, live social shopping that is. And they've been increasing the amount of streams and the amount of hours that they're live for. And I was basically one of the people who was kind of chopping up that content into short form and then putting it out on Instagram and TikTok. So I was running the VFriends live accounts for Instagram and TikTok, and then I did some YouTube shorts as well. And then alongside that, and this is kind of the I've stopped doing that now, but this is the pit part that I'm still carrying on. I've been doing card shows and IRL events in the UK. So card shows, for anyone who's not too familiar with sports cards, Pokemon cards, card shows have really been, cards in general have really been blowing up. I'm sure people are aware of kind of the Pokemon craze. And that kind of expands to all TCG and sports cards as well. And so in the UK, what we've seen over the last 3 or 4 years is this massive kind of expansion from basically zero card shows, card events to a lot of card shows across the country. Now, granted, that is a lot of smaller card shows, but there are some big ones that have been growing over the last few years that rack in like 5 to 10,000 people now is kind of where we're getting to, which in the UK is a big deal, and right now it's just up like the curve is just it's constantly rising. And one of the biggest shows is doing an event in at the Excel in London, and that will be like 13,000. So that just gives you kind of a sense of scale of where these things are heading. And I've been for the last kind of year or so, um, I've been doing these card shows for VFriends. So basically representing VFriends officially at these card shows, selling the merchandise, and trying to get the brand out there and basically trying to introduce people to the brand.
Dude, crushing it. First of all, congratulations. I don't know if I've had the opportunity to actually congratulate you. I know it's like you said, it's been a year going, shifting roles, helping out in different places, whether it be content or the actual road shows. But you know, the V Friends community is unmatched in my heart and in general. And so I know a little bit better than most people listening, probably, you know, the road that it took to get you here and how much time and effort and value you added to the community before ever having any kind of official role. Because a lot of times I was there beside you. You know, shout out to Floss who was in here earlier. Jeremy's another story. So many individuals, incredible individuals in the V Friends community that just contribute to this day, whether they're on the official team or not. To this day, that content machine in terms of community contributions is impressive at any standard. So shout out to you, congratulations to you. Can you let the people listening know a little bit more context on how exactly you ended up officially working with V Friends?
Appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. And yeah, firstly, shout out to all the people in the VFriends community, all the people contributing. There's so many active community members that are producing their original content, that are going live and whatnot, and kind of adding this kind of multiplier effect to the IP. I mean, it wouldn't be where it's at if the community just did nothing and it was just up to the VFriends team to kind of trying to expand and grow this IP and introduce new people to it. So the community really is it. This is kind of like the superpower for NFTs is the community. Like it can really be this kind of jet fuel. It can be this kind of um, multiplier effect where if you can really get a good community that kind of advertise and promote the brand themselves, then it can just take the brand to new heights. On on how I kind of got the role, it's kind of it's a funny story. It's an interesting kind of mesh of different things. So the way I first like how first got into VFriends, I was there day one when the Discord opened up, and I I basically tried to I just tried to be useful. I was in the kind of Instagram comments at the time. I was in the Discord, as I said, when it first opened up. But even before the Discord opened up and Befriends had been like announced as it was going to happen, I was kind of in, you know, Twitter and then that became X. I was in the Instagram comments and I was basically trying to learn Web3 and then answer people's questions. So, you know, someone would ask a question, I would probably have the same question. I'd go and try and find the answer, and then uh, I'd provide them with that answer as well. And so I was trying to be useful in the early stages, and what that led to was when the Discord opened up, I was in contact with Zane at the time, who was kind of running the VFriends Discord, and reached out to hit like they said they were looking for moderators. I reached out to him and I was like, yeah, I'd be interested in being a moderator, and um, was like one of the first two people that he kind of had a call with and was like, yo, um, asked us a few questions, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm happy to proceed. Like, if you two can jump on as moderators and basically work as long as you can, that'd be super appreciated. And I'm gonna keep trying to get more moderators." So I think it was with a guy called Wealthy Frog from Australia. We were the first two moderators of the Discord. So obviously, I was very locked in at the beginning, spending a lot of time in Web3 crypto and a lot of time in that VFriends Discord, which, you know, in the early stages, it was crazy. I don't know if people remember. I mean, I'm sure people do remember the early days, like 2021, how insane some of these Discords were. But the VFriends Discord, think it might have been the fastest growing, uh, like like it had the most amount of members in a 24-hour period. At one point, it held that title, and I think it got up to around 300,000 plus members. So so that's kind of initially how I got involved, and kind of I guess might have been on Gary's radar, and then I was just trying to be an active community member as much as possible. I'm from the UK, so obviously with the brand and most of the community based over in the States and some in Canada. And it's a global brand, a global community, but it's predominantly, you know, based over in the States and North America. So um, that has been a challenge at times. But so I started out as a Discord moderator, tried to be as active as I could in the community. And one of the kind of things that I did, I guess, that looking back, um, probably led to this role was um, just straight up emailing Gary. So I was emailing Gary for maybe a period of like 2 to 3 years, and I still do now. And basically giving my feedback on on different executions that they did, giving my ad- giving my kind of like advice on where I think they could improve, giving suggestions that I think they could look at. I think that was something that Gary kind of picked up on and um, counted a lot towards when later on that basically I think one of those emails about 18 months ago, actually probably no, it'd been October last year, so about a year to this day, one of those emails kind of became a back and forth between me and Gary, and he was like, um, "I'm thrilled to discuss you working for VFriends, but um, you know, I think at the time, the initial email was about kind of um, this kind of they did a launch of Halloween pins, and they had like an error where international people got charged like $70 shipping. Um, and so I sent this email and I was like, look, I'm surprised this didn't get caught before it went live. Is there is there anyone looking over this stuff? I'd be thrilled to do it if you guys don't have someone there, like thinking about the potential things that could go wrong, and maybe even stress testing it before it goes live. And he was like thrilled to discuss you working for VFriends, but not on fixing things. Like, what do you actually want to do? And then that kind of sparked the conversation. I had a think. My initial thoughts were kind of pretty, um, pretty. They weren't exactly detailed. That they were kind of like I hadn't really fixated on a role early on, and it took a while. Honestly, it took like a month or 2 months of thinking it over before I actually kind of narrowed in on a role or like an area where I thought I'd be best at. And then we had this meeting lined up in December. It didn't happen. Um, and then I was like, uh, would it be possible to reschedule to January? And he was like, sure. And we had the meeting in January. Um, and in January, uh, we basically, yeah, had like this 15-minute meeting, talked over like he asked where I thought or what I would like to do. I told him what I'd like to do, and we kind of just bounced back and forth. And then from that point, that was not January this year, that was January last year. So from that point, it took around um 12 to 18 months uh to 12 to 16 months probably to to start to actually get the role, actually, to be honest. So a lot of it was a long process for sure. Um, a lot of kind of waiting um, for the timing to be right on their end. Um, and then right at the end, it was also this period of like, trying to actually fit me into a role um, because we were kind of what we had been discussing was kind of like making a role. Um, in the end, what happened was uh, I didn't kind of start in the role I thought I would be doing and kind of what I agreed with them initially. Um, in the end, it was kind of like, look, we need someone to do this right now. Like, this is what we're prioritizing, and that was like making short form content from these live shows. And they said, "Can you do it?" And I was like, "Look, I'm not an editor, but I can. I feel like I know what makes a good clip." I have done some editing in the past, like me personally, like for my personal content. So I was like, sure, I'll give it a go. Um, and gave it a go for 4 or 5 months, and then I basically that was kind of the path I was going down, and that was kind of like where they were kind of showing me down was like this path, um, continued down kind of like editing or clip or managing like a clip farm, um, where you have like editors underneath you, and to be honest, it just didn't really it wasn't my forte and it wasn't really something that I was super passionate about. I like the live streams, but I would prefer probably to be doing the live streams rather than editing the content. So that was I stepped away from that. But right now I'm still continuing to do card shows in the UK, and we're expecting to ramp things up um, over the next year into 2026.
Wow, bro, what a story. Crushing it again. Like, shout out to you for being persistent, not letting up on those emails to Gary, continuing to kind of just let your North Star be, I want to add value any way I can, and then letting your actions actually embody that to get you where you are today. Obviously, just listening to your story, a ton of lessons and things to keep in mind kind of pop up. But for you, what do you think are some of the greatest lessons you learned from like your path from when you first got involved with VFriends, decided to add value, started sending emails, started creating content, starting getting involved with the community, to now actually saying you actually work with the team? What are some of the biggest lessons you think you've learned along the way in regards to creating opportunity for yourself?
I mean, from what you just said there, like adding value, doing it for free, um, um, doing it kind of. I mean, honestly, like when I was a moderator in the Discord, I wasn't angling for a position at VFriends. That was just something that I just did for free, for almost 2 years. And the same with the emails. Like I wasn't sending those emails angling for a job. That it just kind of naturally that's something that I wanted in the end, and that's what I shot for. But without having started doing that stuff way earlier, and with kind of without expectation, I don't think I would have got a position at Friends. I mean, it's very competitive. There's a lot of people out there that want to work for VFriends. Um, and yeah, I would say yeah, just giving value, going in without expectations. I think what else could be I think I mean being an active community member, like I think one of the angles that I actually had, like the cards I had to play was look, I'm genuinely a very passionate like very active community member and very passionate about this brand. And I want this brand to win. Um, and I think honestly, like I think that worked as well. So you know, that's not really something you can't like fake that. Like either you are passionate about the brand or you're not passionate about the brand. Like there's no kind of two ways about it. But I I would basically advise people, especially if you want a job in Web3, don't get it just because it's a job in Web3. Like try and find a brand you genuinely fuck with that you're passionate about. Um, because that's you're going to stand way bigger chance of actually getting a position there, and you're going to have much higher chance of succeeding once you're in that role. If you just want a position in Web3 or crypto because you think it pays well or you think this is kind of the future, I don't know. I don't think that's enough to. I think that's too much like hopping on the bandwagon. I think you have to spend a little bit more time on your own and kind of think as to what you would really like to do. Um, like I think knowing you want a job in Web3 and crypto is great, but try and be specific. If you just cast that net really wide, I think more often than not you don't get anything, or you don't get you won't get what you're looking for. So I think it's better to cast a I'm an advocate of casting like a fairly wide net, but I also think it's good to be specific. Like in this case, I wasn't trying to get a job at VFriends and five other different NFT projects. It was literally just VFriends, and as much as I love Web3 and crypto, it wasn't even really that part of it. It was just because I love the brand um, and the project as a whole.
Very well said, Burge, and I agree completely with your points on wanting to work in Web3 is great, but it's just not enough. And you'll find out very quickly. You'll find out very quickly that it's not enough, depending on whichever team you end up with. That maybe you should have considered or put more time and energy into, like, what are you passionate about and where can you deliver the most value, because that's going to show out again in your actions, even if you do get the role. Masher, welcome to the stage, fam. Thank you for joining
Thanks,
us.
man.
How are you doing?
Loving these shows, man. Oh, I don't think there's another profile that actually does shows that provides insights into what it's like to work in Web3, and because it's a new technology, well, relatively new, isn't it? It's probably 5 to 10 years old, but realistically, when there's been the focus on what it's like to actually work in Web3, it makes perfect sense, man. So I wish you all the best of that. Burge, congrats on the position of VFriends, mate. I used to love your streams when you would go into work or when you'd come home, mainly when you would go into work, right? Because you'd be in a rush and you'd like you'd like push past people in the street. I always knew when you were running late, put it that way. But I didn't know. I'm not. Is V Friends in the UK? Because I obviously you're in London with me. Are you? Are you? Were you working at the Vayner offices? Or you V Friends? V Friends in the UK? Because I see you go to the. I think probably go to the new Vayner offices, don't you? So is it with?
Yeah,
How does that work? What
yeah,
does that
yeah.
look like to work for V Friends? Have you got to be contracted with Vayner or?
So I was going into the VaynerMedia offices, but to be honest, like there's no kind of crossover there. That was more of a kind of favor from the the guy who ran the VaynerMedia office. Obviously knew Gary very well, knew Andy very well, and so that was kind of like a favor of when I had one of my meetings with Gary, closer to when I actually got the job. So it would have been actually October last year. And actually, I should backtrack. Like the email, like the first email that kind of started this all off must have been October 2 years ago. So a long, long time ago. But yeah, so basically, when I was talking with Gary last year in New York, he was like, I think it would be good for you to go into the office uh, in London, the VaynerMedia office. I think it'd be like good structure wise, and that's what I was looking for transparently myself. But he was also like, I think that would be a good pool of people to start with, to try and onboard some of them into VFriends. When I actually got there, I found most people knew about VFriends very very loosely, but not weren't very deep in it. But there were a few people there that did know a fair amount. And there was also, surprisingly enough, even though there is no crossover whatsoever, and they are just two separate companies, um, there was also these, like I saw in my time there, VFriends characters crop up. Whether it be below the whiteboard, there was in like the holder there was like a gratitude gorilla figurine, or I think some of like the employee awards were actually named after VFriends characters. So that was kind of like I was the one person there trying to get loud about it, or trying to I would bring in like figurines and put it on my desk, trying to kind of get the eyes on it as much as possible. But transparently, very very separate businesses, and VaynerMedia is just a very very traditional marketing company.
Go ahead, Mosh.
Yeah, I appreciate that, mate. I so basically you were just like waving the flag for V Friends in front of everyone at Vane. I get it. The when it comes more of a technical aspect, because I'm sort of trying to understand the working landscape a bit more, whether it's like either sort of being PAYE or being an employee for a company versus being a contractor. Do you have like any like understanding or like sentiments around like what would be a best, like is it better to be a contractor and contracting for like these Web3 companies, or is it better do you feel like it's better to be an employee? It's kind of something that I've been deliberating on, but I don't know if you've got any insights in it or like any thoughts or anything, or maybe there's been previous conversations that someone else has had.
For me, I mean, the way that we kind of settled on it was I was the only option was for me to be a contractor because they don't have a UK entity. VFriends doesn't, so I'm a contractor kind of through like a third party platform, which it basically specializes in kind of connecting companies from different parts of the world to
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
global uh, contractors or employees around the world and like kind of sorting out the pay and the legality of everything. But as to whether I'd rather be a contractor or an employee, I mean, if I could choose, I think an employee, I would definitely rather be an employee. I think it's obviously as a contractor, you're going to be on like it's going to be a different kind of wage structure to a traditional employee. And I think just being an employee, I think you would feel more part of the team. So one of the things for me was as a contractor and being over in the UK, where there's only one other person, which is Katie, and she's I think contracting as well as like customer success or customer support. Um, but with all the team being over in US, I think there's obviously that kind of separation and you kind of feel a little bit distant to the team. Um, and when you're a contractor, I think you also feel like even more distant in terms of, if you're an employee, you're part of the team. A contractor feels like you're almost being kept a little bit at arm's length. So I mean, legally, that's kind of how they had to do it, and I get that. I would have liked to see them actually open up a UK entity. I think that would be cool, and maybe that's something that they do in the future. But obviously, that takes a fair bit of time and resources to set up. So I appreciate why they might not have started off with that.
Thanks for that clarification, mate. Yeah, I think it's a real interest. I don't know, Isaiah, if you can expand on that more, if you have any thoughts around contractor versus PAYE and like, obviously you don't get your holidays, right? If you're a contractor, right? You got to do it yourself. But then again, you only get 2 weeks holiday in the States, I'm led to believe, which is, that's your pound of flesh right there, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. We don't have the opportunity to have contractors on this show too often, but I think it's important to touch on. I've been a contractor for the majority of my time working in Web3, and I think there are examples and scenarios I can think of for certain teams where it worked out better for me to be a contractor, especially when, which this was the case for the majority of my time in Web3, I'm balancing multiple different roles. Um, Now I'm an employee, and it's actually the first time I've been an employee in the last 4 years of working in Web3. I've had my own business. I've been working for different teams, which has been awesome and amazing. But for the last 4 months, I've been an employee working for none other than Web3 Job Ops, who's hosting the space. They're a recruiting firm who also has a sister company that's a marketing firm. Um, and yeah, I agree with everything that Bird just said. If you can find a place that feels like home and you're already naturally contributing to the community, adding value, and it's somewhere you want to be, I mean, employee would be number one. But I would say on the flip side, shout out to VFriends and shout out to just like the Web3 community in general for creating avenues and paths for the global community to contribute in a more official way, even if they may not be based where they need to be based to be an official employee. So shout out to them and teams like them who are making that happen, because as we know, like Web3 is a global community. And who knows, Burge, right? I mean, Gary's all about world domination. So I definitely
Yeah,
I see the vision of,
yeah,
potential UK branch. Go ahead.
yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you make a good point there. I mean, look, at the end of the day, if the option was like no role, no position at all, or to be a contractor, I would much rather be a contractor than not be working for them in any sort of official capacity. Um, and I do feel like expansion is on the cards in the future. It's one of those things where, to be honest, like it was probably quite early in some ways to to expect them even to make a UK entity. I mean, you got to think like they they've still got a long way to go in the US, and the US is a massive market, so you could argue that they should they might as well just focus most of their time in the US for now and then expand it later. At the same time, I also feel like, you know, and I'm sure Moshe would agree with this, that like when when you when the project started, it was kind of it was angled as this global brand, global community. Um, and so I think that's kind of, you know, that might come into play as to why they want to involve community members and bring them on in official capacity. Um, and honestly, like I think it was kind of a unique scenario as well, where you know they had this opportunity for me and then for Katie as well to to actually help out, and it makes sense. Uh, and you know, card shows, live events right now, card shows in the US and in the UK are a big thing on their minds right now. Um, and especially like with how big cards is, as I said, and also with the live social shopping and them and whatnot. Um, I just think like it made a lot of sense for them to they wanted to do a lot more shows in the UK, and I was kind of like that avenue for them to do that. So it kind of aligned, and that's kind of sometimes that's what it comes down to, you know, like sometimes it's just timing and things have to align. Like I would say there's a fair bit of luck as well involved. When I sent that email 2 years ago, it was almost like kind of complaining slash giving constructive criticism or feedback around this kind of thing that wasn't great, you know, with a product launch. And I didn't expect that to become a, even though I offered, you know, to be one of the people or to be a person who could like look over things and try and think about ways things could go wrong. I wasn't really expecting that to become like this whole conversation around, you know, getting a role, an official position at VFriends, and that's what it became. So sometimes you know, a bit of luck, a bit of timing, and things have to align in the right way. Um, you have to kind of going back to what I was saying before. You have to provide value for free often and without expectations often, but you also have to come in with a value proposition. Like if you want to work for what your favorite brand, what are you offering them? You know, like they you I think in a lot of cases, especially in my situation, I was trying to like overtly, you know, give like kind of tell them what I could offer, and what I bring. And you know, when I did sit down with Gary in New York last October, one of the big things, and he kind of already knew this, but like one of the big things was, look, I am super passionate about this brand. Like I live and breathe VFriends, and I'm gonna give everything that I've got. Um, and that was one thing he was like, you know, that you can't take that for granted. That you know, obviously, VFriends it's a small startup, but this for some people that's just their job. You know, it's not like they might like VFriends, but it's not like do or die. It's not like they live and breathe it necessarily, or they're gonna um uh you know go. I'm I'm sure a lot of the employees would, but I don't think like you can expect every employee that works for a brand to go above and beyond, to go to work, you know, additional hours without being paid, etc. And so I think having that kind of that card to play of like I'm willing to go above and beyond, etc. I think that that's very useful to have, and that only comes from genuinely like loving the brand and fucking with the brand and wanting it to succeed, wanting it to succeed as much as possible, and wanting yourself to be, you know, a small cog in that kind of in that system. So that's yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents there.
Yeah, and your last point is super important to touch on, right? It's not a card that you can just decide, oh, Burge said that's a good card I could play, so let me use it here and let me use it there and let me use it there. No, you know, it's something that it either is or it is it either is or it isn't, right? And if it
Yep.
is, it's going to show through your actions, through how you behave in the community, where you add value, the things that you're doing. And if it isn't, again, it's very valuable to know where you are passionate and where you want to contribute, and it's also very valuable to know where you're just not feeling it and you're just not motivated, you know, because then you can at least put that off of your list and get that out of your focus so that you can
100%.
reprioritize that attention, you know, on the things that do mean something to you, or you can be that much closer to finding that project. And you know, we say it every week here on this show, like whatever it is you're doing in Web 2 is needed in Web 3. And the cool thing about Web 3 is like the blockchain and the technology goes so far and wide that, you know, I genuinely can't think of an industry that it doesn't touch or it can't contribute to. So I say that to say like that you will find something here, whether it's JPEGs, whether it's RWAs, whether it's DeFi, whether it's tokens, whether it's the political side of it, whether it's fashion, whatever it is, music, it's here, and it needs whatever talent and skill set you have to bring to it. So great points, Burge. We're going to start winding down, but I got a couple more questions for you. I want to ask you, like, how do you define success in your role?
In my role, I would probably say, you know, right now I'm doing a lot of card shows. It's the success is literally like, you know, trying to onboard as many people as possible. Yes, but at the same time, like really giving a fuck when I'm doing that. And you know, I'm not just trying to like onboard as many people as possible in terms of like the number. I genuinely want to introduce them to the brand. I want them to fall in love with the brand, and that takes time. And so a lot of these times at events, you know, I get, you know, in conversations of 5, 10, 15 minutes where I'm talking over the brand and explaining all the different things VFriends is up to. And I think that that kind of method, instead of, you know, trying to just like get as many people as possible over to the table, but then not go deep with them in terms of introducing them to the brand. For me, it's about making like kind of valuable kind of connections with people at these shows, and to really try and introduce them, um, and give them kind of a deep dive of VFriends. That's kind of for me right now, that success. I want I desperately want more and more people in the UK to discover VFriends. I mean, at the moment it's not like fall in love with VFriends. It's just discovery. Like this is a new brand. Most people have never ever heard of VFriends. Um, Especially at the first few shows I did, like people were coming up to me saying like, "Look, I've never heard of this before. I've never seen this before." And so a lot of that is just, you know, onboarding and kind of giving a chance for people to discover the brand. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. But as I said, like I want to focus on valuable connections as well, especially when someone does come over and they're like, "Oh, I've seen this around. I saw about the Topps Chrome launch. I've seen this on my timeline. Could you answer a few questions?" Like going deep with them. um that's that's kind of what I deem as success. Like I had one person, I had a guy and his family come up to me at the last London card show, and we I think we talked about VFriends for almost like 40 minutes, and in the end, uh they bought a few things, and they went away and they said like, "Look, we're looking at the NFTs. We're looking at a gift goat." And I was like, "Wow, like that's like really high level. Like that's really high up there." And in the end, they ended up buying a gift goat off of OpenSea. So you know that just goes to show um, how it can pay to really take your time with people, and answer their questions. And you know that you know they've just become a gift goat holder of which there's only 555, and I'm one of them as well. So that was super cool to see, kind of how deep, um conversations and kind of going deep with an individual or a family can really materialize into, you know, action on OpenSea into them, getting more and more involved with the brand, them buying sealed card products for them to open later on, etc., etc. So, yeah, that's kind of where I deem success in my role. Outside of my role, I just think, going back kind of on what you were saying, I think a lot of the time you need to try things for you to actually get a feel of whether you fuck with something or don't. And you can't spend too much time in your head. And so for me, success outside of my role, but just in general, success is just doing the thing I want to be doing. And I know, for some that might sound like a luxury, but I actually think it's just a frame of mind. And I don't necessarily think it's a luxury. I think, people in most positions can choose to do what they want to do. You just have to be very kind of, um, I would say, not so risk averse, quite uh, kind of, you have a high risk tolerance, and be prepared to, uh, start a role, and if you're not enjoying it after a week or a month, and you can tell this is just not for you, then leaving that role like within a month. And I think the mistake most people make is maybe it's because of their risk averseness, I don't know, but they end up staying in that role for 6 months or 12 months. And this could be this goes outside of Web3 and crypto. This could just be any job. You end up staying in that role too long and wasting time, really. Like when you know deep down that it wasn't for you. I don't think you should like judge too early. Like sometimes you need to give it maybe more than the week, but at the same time, on the flip side, you also don't want to kind of waste too much of your time when you know deep down that this isn't something that you want to be doing long term. And that's kind of like, I feel like that's something that people need to understand as well.
Yeah, great points, Birch. You've touched on a lot of great insight in these last 40 minutes or so. Uh, in like a few sentences, maybe 30 seconds or less, maybe 1 minute or less, what final advice would you like to leave listeners with today who are either looking to break into working in Web3 or advancing their career in Web3?
So I'd start off with, as I said earlier on, be specific. Like you can't just cast that net of Web3 and crypto. Like I want a job in Web3 and crypto and expect it to come to you and be the right role. Like maybe sure, maybe you'll get a position, but I don't think you're going to get the right one for you. So be specific. Like spend some actual time thinking about it. But in the flip side, like it's always this case of kind of and like yin and yang kind of thing, because you want to spend some time, but you don't want to get caught up in your head too. So you don't want to get caught up in your head, but you want to spend some time, spend an evening, spend a couple of days at most. Think really about like what brands do you fuck with? What brands are you actually passionate about? Like for most people, this will be like the NFT project that they're all in on, that they spend most of their time in the Discord, or they've made the best connections and they really like enjoy the community. For most people, it's that brand. In I would almost stop there. I would say that's the brand that you want to. That it's pretty obvious that that's the brand that you'd want to work for in a dream world scenario, and then kind of reverse engineer how you can get to a position there. And a lot of the time, it comes back to kind of what we were saying earlier about providing value for free, not having too much expectation. Like yes, sure, your end goal might be a role, but I wouldn't expect things to come too quickly or materialize too quickly. And then try and formulate a value proposition. That is the name of the game. Like if you can actually come to them and point back to, 6+ months of you being like super active, providing value, and then come to them with a value proposition of, look, this is what I can offer the community, the project, the company. This is what I can offer you guys. And even if you have a little bit of humility as well, if you're able to take a lower wage or start on a lower wage, I think that is the formula right there. Like, and I know I went over 30 seconds, but that is the formula pretty much. Um, and I would also say one last thing is obviously I was super lucky and fortunate that VFriends is created and founded by Gary Vee, and he's very accessible, so I was able to email him directly. But that's what I would also suggest as well. You can try and get a direct contact to the CEO or someone who really makes the decisions. I think then you can be sure that you're not wasting your time when you're communicating, to try and go direct if you can.
Yeah, all great advice. Be specific, be passionate, and be proactive, right? And especially your last
Yes,
point, like we're in a space where these founders, these executives are more accessible than I would argue any other industry. So,
100%.
so why not take advantage of that, right? Especially if you've got real talent, real skill to bring to the table, and real passion to where you're like, I actually want to add value. Like, teams are looking for people like you, right? So, great
Is
points,
that
Burge. Go ahead.
exactly like literally like and the only point I was going to add was just like I wouldn't just because they are very accessible. I think that means that you need to have done a little bit before you reach out to them, right? Like I wouldn't like spend this evening thinking about like the community, the project, the company that you want to work for in Web3. And let's say it's Chimpers, the NFT project. That's the one you want to work for. I wouldn't then email or try and find their email and try and contact the person who founded it, the CEO, or whatever. I would, that starts that kind of journey of 6 to 12 months at least of providing value and also coming up with the value proposition that you're going to give to them before you then reach out. Because the flip side of them being very accessible is that because they are very accessible, I bet they also get a fair few messages from people who are just messaging them because they want to roll in Web3 and crypto and they haven't done any work prior. So do some work prior, show your value, provide value for free without expectation, and then you can point back to that when you kind of go to them with your value proposition and say, look, I'd love to join the team. I think I could help here. And I think this would be good for XYZ. Yeah, that's kind of that's the playbook.
Boom. Well said. Last question, Burge, for folks listening. How can they support you, and how can they support VFriends?
For me, honestly, guys, I would just appreciate if you could drop a follow. Um, follow me on my journey. I'll always look to try and provide value for the people following me, and always look to pay you guys back if I make it anywhere in the future. So appreciate you dropping a follow on my X account. And for VFriends, again, like I would follow VFriend, I'd follow VFriends cards, follow VFriends live, would be a few good ways. But I would also, really take a look into what VFriends is doing. Like a lot of people fade VFriends in the NFT world, and you know, to us in the community, obviously we're biased, but to me, like it does, like it's. I don't know why they do that, but VFriends right now, it's a top 20 NFT project for sure. You can even see it like on the charts, like it's up there. It's a top 20 project. It's been going consistently and it's been expanding, you know, in a crazy way. I would say one of the things that really separates VFriends from other projects is how many eggs they have in different baskets. Like I get there's a lot of NFT projects out there, a lot of NFT projects up to all sorts of exciting stuff, innovating. But VFriends really impresses me in terms of how many different things they have like their fingers in. So, you're not really riding on, free projects. It's 16 projects for VFriends. And even if two fail, you've still got the other 14 up there that have a chance of going crazy, mega viral. And one last thing I'd just touch on is VFriends were just at New York Comic Con, and from what I heard, I didn't go unfortunately this year, but from what I heard, they had a queue around the booth. So compared to last year, that was like complete change. A queue around the booth, like a massive line for VFriends, and a lot of the people there that were that were buying merchandise, that were excited about the brand. They were new people that even the team hadn't really like they didn't know who they were. So these were new people that they'd onboarded in the last year. And that's insane. Like, I think you can kind of see the trajectory of where things could be going here. And I genuinely think this could be the next Disney, the next Pokemon type brand. So if you have the chance to check it out, I think it would be well worth your time to do so.
Boom, there you have it, folks. And Burge, real quick, when is the next card show IRL event?
Next card show in the UK is actually just coming up. So in the UK, it is the 31st of October to the 2nd of November. So in 2 weeks' time, if you're in the UK or near the London area, check out London Card Show. It's in Esher, which is about 50 minutes away from the center of London. So definitely check us out there. And if you're not sure, if you're in the US and you're looking for a show near you, the best place probably to go is, it would be announcements in the VFriends Discord. I think the next one coming up is Houston, Collecticon Houston, which is the 25th of October, and you've got a few more until the end of 2025. So definitely go check out the Discord, go to announcements, and you can see when the remaining trade shows are for VFriends in 2025. And I'm sure they're going to be scaling things up in 2026 because I know in the UK that's definitely the plan. And lastly, I just want to give big shout out to Gambler. Always fuck with my guy, and always super, super happy to see him at these IRL events. And I'm really hoping that VCon happens next year or 2027 at the latest, and we get to spend some time together.
Soon enough, brother. Who knows? Maybe I make it out to one of these road shows. Maybe I make it out to Europe to catch you and Floss out there one of these days. But there you have it. That has been our show. Thank you so much for the time, Burge. You're a legend. Thank you, Brian, Jelena, Fizz, Emily, anybody listening to the recording, whether that's here on X, whether that's on YouTube, Spotify. That has been our show. We're here once again every Wednesday, every Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. These shows are powered by none other than Web3 Job Ops and Events, your hub, home base, and headquarters for all things Web3 talent and recruitment. That Telegram handle in that bio is a great place to start if you're looking for a role, whether you're junior level, mid-level, or senior level. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Burge, once again, thank you, fam. I hope you have a great rest of your day and weekend, and hopefully I get to see you soon.
Appreciate you and look forward to it. Take care, guys.
And make sure you show love to Bird, show love to VFriends if you want to stay up to date with all things going on there. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you. I'm rooting for you. And until next time, we will see you soon. Take care.